Rock and roll may live forever, but we only retire once. Kevin Lamour of Our Financial Plans and Quadris Investment Services offers a large range of financial solutions from some of the biggest leaders in the investment and insurance landscape of Canada. See how a solid financial plan built with friendly and professional advice can help. Find out more at ourfinancialplans.ca or give them a call at 705-949-1316. Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Lonesome Cowboy Podcast. I'm Brian Tremblay, your host, and today another guest that I bumped into at the Folk Canada Conference. What a great place to find all my guests. And she has been around for a bit, and you may have seen her or listened to her music, and it is Shawna Caspi. Hi, Shawna.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem at all. So let's get right down to the meat and potatoes of it. Where did it all start for you, Shawna? Where was little
musically?
Shawna when she got her first recorder or something?
Sure. Well, I was a choir kid when I was growing up in Ottawa, and I sang in a lot of children's choirs, and then that led me to be in the vocal music program of an arts high school in Ottawa,
Nice.
which was an amazing way to be a teenager. And then when I was done high school, I still wanted to do music, and I went and studied music at York University in Toronto, which is what brought me to Toronto. And somewhere, I guess in the teenage years, I discovered the folk community in Ottawa at the time, which was a number of different kind of pillars. And so there was a folk club called Rasputin's Folk Cafe. There was the Ottawa Folklore Center, which was an amazing music store. Mm-hmm. There was CKCU Radio, which this year just celebrated their 50th year.
Cool.
And there was the Ottawa Folk Festival. And so I would go to the folk club, I would go to the music store. I got to meet all these different people. I actually ended up working at the folk club as a waitress when I was in high school. Nice. And so I got to know the other singer-songwriters in Ottawa, people like Lynn Miles and Ian Tamblyn, and I got to see these people play and kind of see a world that I would not have otherwise known was there. And I realized that was the music that I loved and that was the music that I wanted to make, but I never thought I'd be able to do it as a job. But I kept studying music, and by the time I got to Toronto, I was writing songs and I started trying them out in different places in Toronto. And then it was a very gradual thing for me. I was working day jobs for a long time and then just doing music on the side and making records and then kind of playing shows here and there and then playing a little further out from home and then, only working part-time and then touring part-time and then taking that down. And eventually I was touring full-time. So it was very gradual for me.
Good for you. Excellent. Now, I don't mean to a slight by this question in that respect, but would you consider yourself a struggling artist at this stage, or have you reached the level where you don't really have that worry anymore, that you have the sustainability?
Working as an artist has always been very precarious.
Yes.
And I was certainly doing it and making a living at it before the pandemic. And after the pandemic, it's been a lot harder. And I mean, struggling. I think we're all struggling a little bit after the pandemic.
I don't mean to be weird about it, but yeah, we all struggle. But I mean, I really struggle, because I've been on one tour and I don't see anything else in my future. So that's the worry. So that's where I'm kind of relating it. You know what I mean? Because some people wonder where they are in life, and somebody like you who's been doing it for, I think, quite a while can share that kind of stuff.
I would say it is harder now than it was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Whether that's because of the pandemic or just because of the whole combination of things and where we're all at right now, I'm not sure. But I'm certainly not ready to give up yet. But I will admit that it's tough.
Mm-hmm. That's good. When I've had that topic come up actually in regards to the pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and some people have taken guesses as to why it never came back. I'll give you a shot. What's your meaning the vibe, the amount of people coming to shows and stuff like that, and
I don't know if that's true everywhere. I mean, I've been to lots of shows where they're packed and people are super excited to be back. I think finances are a concern for everyone. So if people are making decisions about what they're cutting out of their budgets, entertainment might be something that is not a priority for everyone, and that's understandable. And then for musicians who are used to playing particular circuits, there have definitely been venues that have closed and house concerts that aren't putting on concerts anymore. But I've also seen a lot of new things start up, and, you know, some festivals aren't going anymore and some new ones are popping up. So I still think it's a hopeful scene out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. I'm glad for that. Yeah, because it's been interesting, at least from my perspective, starting at this age. But yeah. Now, your latest album, Hurricane Coming. I see that you're doing something pretty cool with that, and I had to ask you about it. I thought it was the neat thing. Something about a postcard collection, and if they have certain things that they can buy when they on Bandcamp, and if they get the album, they get this collection, and then there we go. So that's
those watching on YouTube.
That's something different, very inspirational. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so when I was doing my degree at York, I was doing a fine arts degree in music, and as part of that, you have to take courses that are outside of your major of music, but within the Department of Fine Arts. Yeah. And I was kind of at a loss as to what I wanted to do, and I found out that there are all these visual arts courses you can take at university that theoretically you can take as a beginner, so you don't have to already be an artist. I thought that was really cool. So I signed up for a painting class as part of my university degree, and immediately discovered that everybody in the painting class was a real painter, artist, and I was not.
Hey,
and so I really struggled. It was very hard. It did not feel like we were starting from the beginning. But I just practiced so much. I went into the studio after hours. I got a lot of help, and I learned how to paint. And it was acrylic painting in university. And when that class was done, I put my paints in a little box and I put it on a shelf, and I figured I'd never look at them again. And then many years later, it was when I came back from one of my first big tours. I had toured up towards you in Northern Ontario and back to Toronto. And as you know, Northern Ontario is incredibly beautiful. And so I'd taken all these photos of places that I'd never seen before, and I was so enthralled by that space. And I really wanted to share those images with people somehow. And so when I came back, I thought, I wonder if I still know how to paint. And I just started painting from photos that I was taking on tour, and people were really interested in it, and people started buying these landscape paintings that I was doing at shows, and I started practicing more and more and got better at it. And so I did that for many years, and then a couple of albums ago, I used one of those paintings as the cover art for my album. I thought, well, this is kind of cool. Maybe I can start doing that. And then on my Forest Fire album, the one that came out before this one, I tried doing something new by working in abstract painting for the first time. I'd always only done landscapes, and that was fun. And so when Hurricane Coming was being made, I had this idea. We were deep in the pandemic at that point, so I had a lot of time on my hands that I don't usually have. And I wanted to create a painting inspired by every song on the album. And I wanted them to be abstract paintings. So I took a lot of time and watched a lot of YouTube videos and learned all these new abstract painting techniques. And I made a plan to listen to the song, but then also connect the song to an art or craft form. So it would have some kind of structure, because abstract can be all over the place. Yeah. So every painting is inspired by a song and also by an art or craft form that I felt had some connection to the song. And if you get the postcards, it'll say the name of the song and the name of the craft form on the back. And so I had original paintings for all of those. I did the original artwork for the actual album artwork as well. And I made postcards from everything. And so you can get besides getting it as a CD, you can get this album as a postcard where you get the cover art on the postcard and the download at the back. Or you can get it as a stack of 10 postcards. Each one is the image for each song. And then it's kind of like a beautiful little art package along with the music.
That is cool beans, man.
It was
That's
fun.
So cool. Yeah, you know what? You're bringing, you know what you're doing to me? You're bringing back my old days in the 70s when I used to stick on my headset and put on the vinyl and sit there and read the liner notes and look at the pictures of the rock stars and that kind of stuff. And you have now artwork that you can look at while you listen to music. So,
or mail it to people and share the music.
Or mail it to people and, anything.
Imagine the mail. People using the mail.
Oh, yeah, I know, eh? Yeah. They're complaining about the postal strike. Use it more, folks. Write a letter, you know? So you actually, when you went to school for art, it was fine art for music, and then you just happened to catch on to this painting stuff that you could do. So that's kind of cool. And you have it from York University, your degree in music?
Yeah, that's right. And I had a great time at York. It was a very open program. I applied to a number of universities when I was coming out of high school. And I should mention, when I was talking about being in choirs and being at this arts high school, my background in music was very much a classical singing background in particular.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I also played classical guitar a little bit. And so my guitar playing that I do now as a folk person is inspired by classical guitar. So it's a very light finger picking style. And my singing for a long time was very classical, and it actually took a long time for me to find my real natural folk singing voice. And
Nice.
it's kind of still a process for me because I was trained so long in classical singing. And so when I was auditioning for universities, a lot of music universities are very classical. And so you're kind of going in thinking you're going to be an opera singer. And I thought maybe that was something I was going to do. So I'm actually really grateful that I ended up at York, because it was such a supportive and creative space. The faculty were amazing. My fellow students were amazing. And my mind was very opened up to new music and to new art that I don't think I would have found otherwise.
Cool. Yeah, you remind me of my wife, actually, because she has a foundation in choir, and used to, and she's from the States, so they had high school choirs. So you traveled and toured with your high school kind of thing, which is cool. And she also went ahead and got her degree in music, too. So
Another thing that's big in the States that only started kind of catching on in Canada was collegiate a cappella. And that's something that I did at York University also. I was part of the a cappella group, and that was another like amazing experience, great lifelong friends, and just opening my mind to a world I never knew about. And it was so cool to learn different ways of singing and also learn different ways of arranging music. And I think that was
Isn't that what they call
help
Glee
too.
Club?
I think in the U.S. they called it that, and certainly the television show that came from that everyone knows.
Yeah, really, no kidding.
That's what it's like, yeah. And all the Pitch Perfect movies, that was it was just like that.
All the cattiness and all the drama, too?
Not so much, but the traveling by bus to the regionals,
Okay, that's
that
cool.
was a real thing.
Yeah. It actually reminds me, your artwork reminds me of an album that I put out, which was inspired by a series of black and white photographs I shot on film and printed in the darkroom. So it was, I said, hey, somebody else did it too. And that's really kind of cool in that respect. I've come to discover that songwriters are kind of like authors, and you have fiction writers and you have nonfiction writers. And I guess I've thought about myself as I write fiction, but I also write a lot of nonfiction too. So when you consider yourself a songwriter, do you think yourself more fiction or nonfiction? Based on
That's a
real
great question.
events, life, people, or just
I-
imaginings?
I think as a young songwriter, it was a lot of imagination and a lot of veiling my real experiences and my real feelings with metaphors and all of this word painting, and like it that I wasn't sharing enough of myself in my songs in those early days. And it's always been my goal to remove more and more of those layers and to be more vulnerable and to be more direct. And when I made Hurricane Coming, I feel like that album has come the closest to doing that. And I think I can still do better. And so in the songwriting that I've been doing lately, I'm trying to do that even more. And it's a combination of honesty and just like being ready to share more personal things, and also to do it in a language that's more clear and direct, and to have song structures that are more clear. That's something I've always been working on that I in the past has been very different. So I think certainly now and probably going forward, I'm very much in the, I guess what we would say, the nonfiction. Like it's personal stuff and it's
Cool.
real stuff. And it took me a while to realize that even when you're singing about yourself, if you're doing it in an honest way, other people will relate, even though it's not necessarily their exact experience. And then for some reason, that took me a long time to figure out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree 100% with you. Where is home base for you, Shawna?
Right now, I live in Toronto. I've been in Toronto ever since I moved here to go to York University. Mm-hmm. It's I never really know how much longer I have in Toronto.
Yeah, you're talking about cost of living and stuff like that, or yeah?
Housing precarity. Talk about precarity. Yeah, it's at the moment I'm in Toronto, and that's where I suspect I'll be for a while. But honestly, I never know.
And if you were to say you're going back home, where would that be?
Going home, probably Ottawa.
Okay,
that's where I grew up.
That you know what? I am super jealous of your guys' music scene in Ottawa. It's that Ottawa Valley. Holy cow! My God. My God.
Yeah, I'm also jealous.
Northern Ontario. And now
Northern Ontario's got quite a lovely thing too going on. But when I lived in Ottawa, again, it was this. I haven't been in Ottawa in over 20 years. So when I lived there, again, it was those pillars that I mentioned before that are all gone except for CKC Radio now.
Yeah.
And then I left and went to university. And I feel like while I was away, the Ottawa scene quieted down quite a bit. And then in the last, 5-10 years, something amazing is going on in that city, and they've got organizations together, and the art that's coming out of Ottawa is really impressive, and definitely the Valley too. I think a lot of musicians who used to live in Toronto moved to Smiths Falls, and so that whole like Perth, Smiths Falls, Carleton Place region is just bursting with amazing musicians.
And here's how the fun part. You see, I did a Stomp and Tom Connors show for. I love playing for my senior citizens over at our Bay Street Active Living Center, and. I love talking to you guys from the Ottawa Valley because I get to hear all the names of songs of cities I only heard in Stomp and Tom songs.
Renfrew and
Smith Falls, and and the people down in Carleton Place say the Mississippi drips onto Big Joe's face. I thought it was fantastic. I've heard that some artists are in kind of a performance paralysis. I think I'm a little bit that way too. I've had a tour. I guess you could call it successful, but I think they're finding that low ticket sales and no guarantees and that kind of stuff, and then being stuck with having either no money or no gig, or end up having to owe somebody money in that. You've been doing this solo for so long, and you seem to have a good grasp on it. What's your advice for artists when they say, "I want a tour, didn't get a grant, but I want to go." Here, and here, and here. What's your advice to make and survive?
I guess it depends on what that person's goal is from touring, and also how much risk they're willing to take. It's like any business. Mm-hmm. So when I go on tour, I try to think of why I'm doing this. Some part of why I go on tour is because I love traveling. I love being on the road. I love meeting new people. And so just the physical act of being on tour is of value to me. And, it also depends on where you're going and why you're going there and what time you're going there. So if you have a new record and you're trying to spread that around as far as you can, then that's a good goal for touring. So it depends on the person. If you really can't afford to lose, maybe, or you have a family to take care of, or, there's all sorts of factors, then maybe it's too much of a risk. But certainly when I'm touring solo, which is most of the time because of the logistics of it, I don't have that much to lose. I'm just one person. I'm out there, and I've made the decision to do it. But I certainly don't plan to lose money when I'm on tour. So when I'm planning a tour, I'm reasonably confident that it's going to have at least some anchors that are solid, that are bringing me out there, and then maybe I can afford to take a chance on a few shows here and there. And anchors for me are festivals or house concerts or established concert series. Mm-hmm. So I usually don't just kind of throw darts at the wall and go wherever they go. There's a plan when I'm touring.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think making a plan is a great thing, and then figuring out what you're trying to get out of it, and are you getting that value? So if part of that value is just to be out there, discovering new places, and that's like enriches your life, and you can do that, then that's great. If you have a band full of people and you have to pay them all every night, that's a tougher thing to do, and it may or may not be viable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm always asking because I know I'm hanging out now with a bunch of guys kind of my age, and we're all in the same position going, should we go out there? Should we? Or are we going to get, pooched? Because I can, my tour experience, we had a grant, and luckily we did, because we had it part of Culture Days, and if we had have just been relying on ticket sales, we would have been, camping on the side of the road and possibly eating out of a dumpster.
Right, and I think it's important to decide what you're willing to tolerate, too. because I will not sleep in a tent and eat out of a dumpster. So if I'm on the road, I have to make sure that I am taking care of myself and, also not getting too tired and taking care of my health. And the older I get, the more important that is. When I was younger, I was a lot more reckless with my body, and now I'm not. I'm a little more careful and would recommend that to everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very personal, and touring is not necessarily for everyone, and not necessarily like the be all and end all. I know when I used to tour when I was younger, for me it was when I was just kind of running around doing whatever I could do. Mm-hmm. I would throw dates on a tour just to have a date to put on the poster. I wanted to have as many dates as I could, no matter where they were, no matter what they were. And then as I've kind of refined things, I'm more interested in a quality time. So I'm not going to play a bar on Tuesday night to a crowd that's not listening just to say that I played in whatever town. It's going to be a quality gig, or I'm going to take the night off, or I'm going to go for a hike. Like, I'd rather do that than have a miserable gig. So I'm much more choosy. Personally, I'm much more choosy about my gigs now. Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's very good. You had a great little session there, and I sat in for a short bit at Folk Canada. I can't remember what that was called, but I just called it a round table kind of thing, and we all hopped around. And you were doing touring on a budget. Man, you definitely have got some serious experience with that. You had ins and outs for everything to make it on a budget. Yeah.
And I'm always open to new ideas, too. Certainly, I think for me, the only reason I ever was living off touring was 100% because I almost never paid for accommodations.
Wow.
Everywhere I went, somebody took me in and gave me a free place to stay. And 97% of that time, the places were amazing. Like, I got very lucky. And it was a combination of just connecting through whoever was presenting the show and asking if there was anywhere I could stay, or if I was really down to the wire and I had nowhere to stay in a town, I would just go on Facebook and put out a note to all my friends and say, does anyone know anyone in Kentucky who can house me for one night? And someone would always come through. So that was the only way I think that I made a living touring, was that I always had somewhere to stay that I wasn't paying for.
Good for you. That's outstanding. I see that you are a multi-instrumentalist. I've looked for pictures of you playing something else, and then I caught a shot of you holding an accordion, a squeeze box.
Oh no, that was a long time ago.
I was about to say, now is that a childhood instrument that the mom and dad said, hey, learn this?
No, my childhood instrument was the piano, like many children. Okay. Yeah. And like many children, I was forced to do it for many years. I did the Royal Conservatory banging my head against the wall thing, and it wasn't for me. And I begged for so many years to quit, and they just like, you just got to stick it out. And so eventually my parents let me quit piano, but luckily I had enough of the foundation that when I went to this arts high school and when I went to university, having a piano background was really helpful in a music program. So I respect that, and I thank my parents for that foundation. But I also thank them for letting me quit when I did, because I didn't want to hate the piano forever. It's a lovely instrument. Uh-huh. So I played piano as a kid. I played violin in middle school and a little bit in high school. Not particularly good, but I had a violin for a little while, and I wasn't playing it as an adult, so I gave it away to someone. And so I'm always interested in other instruments. So I was lent an accordion at one point, and I was learning it. And I don't know if you've ever learned an accordion, but it's extremely loud. Uh-huh, and I currently live in an apartment building that has very thin walls, and there's no way I could have an accordion in here. So I had to give up the accordion when I moved into this building. Yeah. And I have since, in the last couple of years, thanks initially to the library in Toronto. In Toronto, we have a music instrument lending library in our city library. Wow. And I took out a mandolin a couple years ago. And I started learning mandolin, and then someone gave me a very, very cheap mandolin that I've been learning on. And so that's currently my beginner learning experience of a new instrument at the moment.
Good for you. I've touched base on all that stuff too. I've tried saxophone, and that's
a hard one.
Yeah, I tried tin whistle. I must be torturing my poor wife as I try to learn that, because I'm torturing myself. That's for damn sure. I tried mandolin. You know what? And I said, stick with the guitar, buddy. You still haven't got anywhere near as far as you could have gotten on that, but
I feel the same.
Happens. Yeah. You seem like a really big music community builder. you strike me like that. The things you say are positive and always talking about that kind of thing, and or you're a big music community supporter too. So in unfortunately, like I said, this area lacks a lot of that, at least in the Sault Ste. Marie area, at least from Wawa to Echo Bay and in between. And there's, because the things that happen where you guys have that great community in Ottawa don't happen here. So I guess my question is, if you were building a music community, where would you start to try to get people to understand the value of, original live music?
That's a good question. I think ultimately all people want to be part of something. And I think some really successful music communities have been built where everyone is in it together. So there's this thing called choir that I think started in Toronto, but it's gone all over the place, where like a bunch of people show up at a bar and they're led by these two guys and they sing one pop song together, but as like a choir. Cool. And that was hugely popular. Like way more people went to that than, the same night, like the next night when a singer-songwriter might be playing their original music at the bar.
No kidding.
But you want to be part of something. I think that's the reason people go to live music in general. There's something about being there together, whether, it's a participatory thing or not, but you feel like you're in something. So if you're trying to build the community, I think the way to start is to get a bunch of people together, but make it so that they're all in it somehow. Everyone has a stake in it somehow, not just like show up and we're going to talk at you or we're going to sing at you. Something more collaborative.
Yeah, sure. That's cool. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, there's lots of things that you can do, and that's a great way to get things started. Okay, Shawna, Zoom tells me I gotta go, so.
Wow, that went by so quickly.
Yeah, didn't it? I know, I did. I looked up and I went, you're kidding me. Is that where it's at right now? I'm just going to make sure I haven't skipped over anything here and stuff. Oh, I will mention something. I saw that you went to a November Project show with the lady there with the ukulele stuff. I met her at the Folk Canada conference too.
Eve Goldberg.
Yeah, Eve. Yeah, really cool stuff. And my single is part of the November Project that I have, my new single out. So
yeah, that's my friend Rob, Rob Horgan, who runs that.
Rob,
I met him when he was living in Cobourg. I have a bunch of people I know out in Cobourg from the Shelter Valley Folk Festival. Nice. And so I met him out there and we kept in touch, and he was starting that project already in Cobourg and then started moving it all around different places where he was going. So he was in Toronto for a while, and I did one with him last year, and then he now lives in Halifax and he's doing them out east. But he came back to do it for Remembrance Day with Eve, and it was a lovely show. Yeah.
It was really cool. And when he advertised on Folk Canada's newsletter, I went, I got to do this. My father and my grandfather both being Second and First World War veterans, so it was.
Stay in touch with him. I'm sure he would love to do that in the Sioux at some point.
Yeah, there's a lot of those up in this area. That's for sure. The veterans are very. A lot of Northern Ontario guys went off for that. That's for sure. Shawna, tell everybody where they can find out more about you and your music and socials and web and blah, blah, blah. You know the stuff.
Yeah, so I have a website. It's just my first and last name, so shawnacaspi.com. I'm sure you can find it. I'm the only one, I think. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. If you search for me on Facebook, I'm Shawna Caspi Music. On Instagram, I'm just Shawna Caspi. And I have a Bandcamp. You can get my music there. That's where I keep telling people to go to get music, is Bandcamp.
Same here.
But yeah, if you Google my name, you'll find me.
Yeah, and she's very Googleable with all kinds of cool Google information. Shawna Caspi, thank you for coming on the program. I very, very much am grateful for you coming by and sharing your experience with us DIY musicians.
Thank you so much, Brian.